Hey guys, and thanks for joining me for yet another video. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to make hops bread as well as a braided loaf. It's pretty easy to assemble. However, I will take you through each step that brings you up to the level of producing this bread. So let's get into this video, y'all. Hey guys, and thanks for joining me for yet another video. In this presentation, we're going to be making bread. So to make bread, I have here 4 cups of flour, 5 tablespoons of powdered milk, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 5 tablespoons of brown sugar. I have up to 2 cups of water, warm water, lukewarm water. I suggest warm, like the ones you'd want to take a bath in. 1/4 cup of flour on the side, as well as 1 packet of yeast, which is just under 2 teaspoons of yeast. So we're going to use that much. So first thing first, I'm going to be melting these 5 tablespoons of butter here. We just melted our butter. I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds and that got it nice and melted. It's not like scorching hot, it's just warm. So the next step would be to add our dry ingredients. So we're going to add our yeast. We're going to add our salt, our powdered milk, and the brown sugar. Get a whisk, and we're going to whisk these dry ingredients into each other so that it's well incorporated. So after mixing these ingredients in well, you're going to move on to the next step, which is we're going to be using a container for our 2 cups of water and our butter. And we're going to slowly start adding that to our flour. So I just add, say, it's going to be 4 portions from... So yeah, so I just added 1/4 of that moisture in there, which isn't much. I'm going to be going in with my hand soon, but not yet. So I'm going to add some more. So that's now half of that 2-cup mixture that's in here. So my dough did come together, however, and this is the part where you use a bit of this flour to start getting it. So the kneading process is quite easy. You're actually just going to be folding it into itself. So you're just going to keep doing that around and around. So you just repeat that. We're going to be kneading this for at least 5 to 7 minutes. I know. Alternatively, you could use a bread maker, or the bread mixer or the roller there, but I use my hand. Okay guys, so I found it easier to take my dough out of the bowl and maneuver it on the counter. So that's what I've been doing for the past 7 minutes. I'd say this is good enough for me. This is how I like my dough to be. It's going to be smooth on the other side, but basically we're just rolling it into itself as you see here. So you just pull and use your palm to press it in. Pull and press. Yeah, so it's been about 10 minutes, close to 10 minutes now since I've been eating this. 10 minutes is enough. So what I did here was I took a basin and I put a teaspoon of oil and I rubbed it all around so the whole thing is oiled. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my dough in here. First, I'm going to put it downwards and then upwards again. And we're just going to use a bit of that oil from on the bowl there to cover it so that it doesn't dry out when it's proofing. Because, we're going to put this dough to rest in here for a while. So we're going to let it rest for, say, about a good 20 minutes before we mess with it again. So I'll flip it back on this side now that all is oiled, and we're going to let it proof for 20 to 30 minutes, preferably about 30 minutes. Okay, so we'll cover it, seal it off so no air gets in, and we'll leave it be for 30 minutes. Hey y'all, so it's been 30 minutes since we let this dough go do its thing for a while. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to be mixing this again. So basically I flipped it back over to the parts where we were mixing before, and I kneaded it into itself again for about 1 minute. Yeah, so the texture changed and got really nice again. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this proof. It's been about a minute of me mixing it now, so I'm just folding it into itself once again and using the palm of my hand to press it into the middle. So same thing, you pull and press with the palm of your hand into the middle. Pull and use the palm of your hand to press down in the middle. So you're bringing it all together. So this dough here, I took it out once again so that I could apply some more oil, because the swelling that it did so far took away some of the oil that was in there. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I'm gonna roll the top into that moisture again and then turn it over and let it just touch it around, make sure everything has some oil, and then we're gonna pull our cling paper back onto it and put it back in a warm place. So guys, since I do live in a cold climate, I'll show you one of my cheats. One of my cheats is to set a 30-second timer in the empty microwave and let that heat up to a warmer environment. And then what I do now is I close the door and I leave it be for that time that it needs to be rising for, which is another hour. So we'll be back in an hour to see how much it has risen. And hey guys, so I'm back with the bread. As you can see, it's totally came up above the top of the lid, so it's actually tripled its size. So as soon as I touch it, it's gonna deflate though, as you can see here. It's like, yeah guys, so like I was saying here, so we're gonna just take this right on out of the bowl at this point. I'm gonna flip it over to the side that I started to cut with my hand. I'm actually gonna go in with this dough cutter and I'm gonna split it down the middle. Now what I decided while this was rising was I'm going to make a braided bread here, and I'm going to make some hops bread on this side. So that's it for the braided bread. We're gonna need to cut this in 3 equal lines. So I cut it in 3, and then we're gonna single roll it into 1 roll before we braid it. So I'm gonna roll this out into 1 thin line, and then I'm gonna be braiding it to make that bread. So yeah, we just get it all separate. Hey guys, nicely. So as you can see here, I have 3 rolls out of that half a loaf. The one in the middle is a slight bit longer than the rest because that's going to be the main braid. So what I do is I start by pressing down my 2 ends here. I press down on that side and then I proceed to braid it. Right, so we're just going to start folding it over. Yeah, so you're just going to keep going. So basically you lift this one and you put it over your top this side, you pull this one this way, and you're pretty much braiding, right? Like how you'd braid here. This one will go underneath, and you keep it close as you can so that there's no gaps, and then you just keep going. This one will go underneath. So when you get to the end of the braid, like right here, you just seal it. So I just seal it and I tuck it underneath itself. And the same thing for this side. I tuck it underneath itself. Yeah. So that's how your braid looks for your braided bread. I decided to use this cookie tray because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rest of it to make the hop spread. So it's a good idea I put that there, so that way I'll be just working with 1 tray. So I'll probably get, I don't know, we'll see how much we get. I'm gonna cut it in 4/4. I just took the dough out. I'm gonna cut it in 4/4 and then see how it goes from there. Guys, so I cut it in 4 and then I cut those 4 into 4 more. So basically I ended up with 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're gonna get about 8 hops. So what I do is I just put a little bit of oil on my fingertips before I actually hand it, because I find it works out easier. And what I do is I do the same thing I was doing with the bigger dough, and I fold it into itself until it disappears into the middle like so. So yeah, so that's what it looks like underneath, and then on top would look like this. Because your hand had a bit of moisture from the oil, which is good. You don't want it to become too sticky. So we're gonna just place that on our baking tray right there. And we're gonna roll the next one. So the same thing applies. You put a little bit of oil on one of your fingers there and you just rub it. You pick up your dough and then the part that's open, you fold it into there. So you just fold that in. Hey guys, so I put a touch more oil over top because I don't want it to dry out. So I'm just putting a touch of oil over top. You can use a brush, a cooking or pastry brush. That might be a better thing. I just actually like to go over it to know I got all the anything that feels dry on my fingers. So that's the reason why I use my fingers. And I just rub it in like, you know, you'd rub lotion. So guys, the same thing applies. I preheated the oven to get the right temperature first for 30 seconds. I covered the bread and the roll back down with the foil paper, and we're gonna leave this in our microwave. We're gonna set a timer for 60 minutes, and then by the time that beeps, we should be ready for the baking process. And when we're ready to bake, we'll preheat our oven to 300. So I'm just taking these buns and the bread out of the microwave where it was rising. I preheated my oven to 350 degrees so that it's ready to receive this. So as you can see, it's super swollen up inside of this tray here. Everything's sticking now compared to how it was, and this is huge. So we're gonna put this in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes depending on the color. I assume these would be done first, so we'll keep an eye on this one for another 5 minutes most likely. So we're gonna put this in on a timer for 25 minutes, and then we'll, dependent on that, we'll know if we need the extra 5 minutes. So we'll set a timer for 25 and then we'll check and see how they're baking. 2 tablespoons of margarine, and I have a basting brush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this in the microwave for 15 seconds just so it can get liquefied, and then I'm gonna whisk the rest of it in. And what we're going to be using this for is when our bread is done, immediately after it comes out of the oven, we're going to be brushing it with the butter to get that nice soft texture we're used to on the top of your bread. So we got our butter mostly melted, and I'm just going to use the brush to whisk the rest of it in. Hey guys, so I'm happy with the color I'm seeing right now. This is after 25 minutes of baking. So what we're gonna do now, like I said, immediately after taking it out of the oven, what we're gonna do is we're gonna brush it with our butter mixture. Make sure you get down to the sides and all the way on the top. So we're gonna do that for the entire thing, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. So here guys is what the hops bread looks like. It's nice and soft and golden underneath. I'm just now taking them apart for the first time, as you can see. So yeah, it turned out pretty nice. It's nice and like a hops. And the whole loaf turned out really nicely as well. I'm just gonna separate this bun from it. We're gonna flip it on the other side to see what our braid looks like underneath, and there we go. Looks great. Yeah guys, so that's the way the bread is done. It's ready to go, ready to be served, and yeah, it's crispy. Yeah guys, so I just cut into this bread here. I'm just going to open it up. As you can see, it's probably You can see the steam coming out of that. So yeah, so how they do it back home is they just add a bit of that hot butter to it, and then they just put a bit of cheese. So I'm gonna spread this butter around and then cheese it and show you what that looks like. So here we have it, y'all, traditional cheese and hops ready to go. And yeah, traditional stuff.